Right now, on to the point. President Biden's farewell address.
My eternal thanks to you, the American people.
His message to the nation. This just hours after a ceasefire deal in the Middle East. Tonight, what's next for Israel, Hamas, hostages, and the countless lives lost? Plus, with the incoming Trump administration,
he has no love for California's efforts to reduce emissions.
The new changes California is making around emissions and carbon neutral rules. And later, former Sacramento City Manager Howard Chan is still on the payroll.
The council's made it clear that we're looking to turn the page.
Tonight, in a one-on-one interview, Mayor Kevin McCarty shares what's next for this position and why he says Howard Chan is still being paid. Good evening. As always, thank you so much for joining us on To The Point. I'm Alex Bell. And first tonight, an end of an era. President Biden's half century in politics is coming down to its final days. In less than an hour ago, the president giving his farewell address to the nation. He highlighted the successes of his administration, gave a warning to the American people about power, and said the future is now in our hands.
After 50 years of public service, I give you my word. I still believe in the idea for which this nation stands. A nation where the strength of our institutions and the character of our people matter and must endure. Now it's your turn to stand guard. May you all be the keeper of the flame. May you keep the faith. I love America. You love it too. God bless you all, and may God protect our troops. Thank you for this great honor.
Biden says he will ensure a peaceful transfer of power with President-elect Donald Trump next week. Biden's address comes just hours after Israeli officials and Hamas leaders have agreed to a ceasefire hostage deal. Fighting has been raging for more than 15 months in the region since Hamas's attack on Israel back in October of 2023. And the deal would include Israeli troops withdrawing from areas of Gaza and hostages being released by Hamas. President Biden speaking on the terms just this afternoon.
Phase 1 will last 6 weeks. It includes a full and complete ceasefire, withdrawal of Israeli forces from all the populated areas of Gaza, and the release of a number of hostages held by Hamas, including women and elderly and the wounded. And I'm proud to say Americans will be part of that hostage release in Phase 1 as well.
The president says Israel will also release a number of Palestinian prisoners, and Palestinians will be able to return to their neighborhoods in Gaza. If the deal is adopted, parts of the agreement are expected to begin this Sunday, January 19th. Biden's team and the incoming Trump administration were both involved in the negotiations. The deal comes as preparations are underway in Washington, D.C. for President-elect Trump's second inauguration. Fencing and other security measures are going up around the city. California is also preparing for the incoming second Trump administration. Just yesterday, the state withdrew its diesel truck ban. And this initiative, which was created to help the state meet its emissions goals, was controversial from the beginning. ABC 10's Jeannie Nguyen is here to explain what happened and if this means trouble for other emissions-related regulations.
Alex, the California Air Resources Board, or CARB, passes policies to make and keep California's air cleaner. But a former board member tells me, Trump administration or not, these specific rules around diesel trucks would have been difficult for any administration to approve.
In an effort to reduce greenhouse gas emissions, the California Air Resources Board, or CARB, created the Advanced Clean Fleets regulations. If passed by the EPA, it would require large fleets to buy zero-emissions trucks.
There was also another piece of it that was added that was especially controversial, that would say that all trucks had to be zero emission by 2036.
A former CARB board member for 16 years, Daniel Sperling, helped develop the rule and believed there were problems with it from the start.
What you're doing is telling all of these truck fleets, thousands of truck fleets, that they must purchase these vehicles.
We're going to drill, baby, drill.
With the incoming Trump administration, CARB withdrew its waiver from the EPA. CARB's chair, Leanne Randolph, says in part this is an important step given the uncertainty presented by the incoming administration.
He has no love for California's efforts to reduce emissions. So if California sought a waiver in the next 4 years, they wouldn't get it.
Political experts believe existing climate programs in the state are also at risk.
I think he has already signaled that he wants to rescind a lot of the rules that California, with federal government approval has already adopted. And I think he will probably follow through on those, which will lead to more lawsuits.
The California Trucking Association told ABC 10 the Advanced Clean Fleets rule was unachievable, and it looks forward to engaging all stakeholders to further reduce emissions in a feasible manner.
On Tuesday, CARB also withdrew its waiver that would require cleaner locomotives. To see the board's full statement on the withdrawal, head over to our website at abc10.com. Alex.
All right, Jeannie, thank you. And coming up a little bit later in the show, several of Trump's cabinet nominations are on Capitol Hill facing questions from the Senate as they work to gain confirmation. We will have more from what was said during today's hearings. We are continuing to track the wildfires that are burning in Los Angeles. Tonight, Los Angeles County remains under high fire risk as dry conditions and high winds could spread existing fires. Tens of thousands remain under evacuation orders, and this tragedy has already claimed the lives of at least 25 people. Melissa Don is in Altadena tonight with a look at recovery efforts.
8 days after the devastating fires began in Southern California, millions in western Los Angeles County and most of Ventura County are again under a particularly dangerous situation red flag warning, but not the 80 to 100 mile per hour winds that hit the county last week.
The danger has not yet passed, so please prioritize your safety.
ABC News learning the ATF, which is investigating the cause of the fire, is zeroing in on the Palisades Highlands area. There are questions whether a fire first reported on a hillside just after midnight on New Year's Day could be connected to the fire that started on January 7th. Among the thousands of structures destroyed, several schools. Unaffected schools welcoming students, families, and employees today from those that have been destroyed by the fires. Many students also lost their homes.
I lost one thing that I really liked in our house was this one stuffy that was there since I was first born.
Los Angeles Mayor Karen Bass announcing an executive order to speed up the recovery process. But as residents wait to rebuild, they need somewhere to live immediately. Officials warning landlords not to take advantage of the situation.
We have seen people increase their prices for rooms that they are renting, for houses that they are leasing, 100, 200, 300%. Here's my warning. You will be publicly shamed. I want to make that crystal clear. So stop it right now.
As the damage from the fires are still being assessed, more stories are emerging of how people from our area were impacted. Lodi Councilwoman and former Mayor Lisa Craig Hensley was in Southern California all last week for a conference. The trip started just hours after the fires began, and the councilwoman says that the experience of being so close taught her some important lessons and also opened her eyes to some areas of concern.
I think when I was seeing the businesses impacted, if you look at our historic downtown, I have concerns. You know, if fire hits one building, it can sweep through the rest because of the adjacent walls. And I think that's something that our fire department is very conscious of.
The council member also invited the fire chief, police chief, and public utilities director to speak about emergency preparedness at tonight's city council meeting. And there has been a tidal wave of misinformation about the wildfire fight in Los Angeles. We have been debunking these claims that have been made. Right now on the ABC 10 Plus streaming app, you can find our newest special California Fires Fact Check. This app is free to download on Roku, Amazon Fire TV, or wherever you stream. All you have to do is just look for California Fires Fact Check on the home screen. Stay with us. Next, on To the Point, my one-on-one interview with Sacramento Mayor Kevin McCarty, from a new city manager to affordable housing, how he plans to tackle some big issues.
We're continuing to track patchy frost in the forecast, more burn restrictions, and what's been a rather long dry stretch this January.
Plus, Trump's cabinet nominees face hours of questioning on Capitol Hill, why there's concerns about the 2020 election. All right, let's check in on our weather with Chief Meteorologist Monica Woods. Again, another cold morning, overnight temperatures
crisper.
Yeah, I know. It's freezing out.
I suppose it's nothing to complain about considering that a lot of the Great Lakes region is dealing with afternoon highs in the teens. We started off with morning lows in the 30s up and down the valley, 40s along the coast, as well as for parts of the foothills, and teens for the Sierra. Now afternoon highs warm nicely. Ample sunshine, highs in the low to mid 60s, well above average here. And then for the coast, highs were in the 50s, right around 60 for the foothills, and 40s with no snow for the Sierra. We'll continue to see that dry weather for tomorrow. Sunrise 721, calm winds. We have just a hint of a northwest wind tomorrow afternoon. That's going to keep our highs in the low 60s. Our sunset now just after 5:10. As we edge towards our Thursday, we continue to see our air quality taking a hit without ample wind or precipitation. All that wood smoke continues to stay very close to the surface. So for Sacramento County, no burning unless exempt, and San Joaquin County, no burning unless registered. As far as our red flag warning, we have just a small pocket of area in Southern California that continues to be under risk of high fire danger through Thursday afternoon, right around Santa Clarita, and then moving off into parts of the coastal communities just north of Thousand Oaks. We'll continue to monitor that for tonight. But the weather pattern is starting to shift. The nice thing here is we will be cooler, still dry, and a little bit more humidity developing into Southern California. No precipitation in the immediate forecast under this ridge of high pressure, but we are starting to see some hints of perhaps some change by not this weekend, but the following weekend. Highs in the meantime under dry conditions in the 40s for the Sierra, with 50s and 60s for the foothills. Along the coast, it's going to be status quo. Morning lows in the 30s and 40s, highs in the 60s, and we'll move that inland as well. Morning lows in the 30s, highs in the 60s for our Thursday. 5-day regional forecast. It's another dry weekend, perhaps a good opportunity to maybe take care of some lawn work if you've got that yet to do. For the coast, we'll see a mix of sun and clouds. Highs will be in the 50s and 60s. A look at our 3-day forecast. Will drop into the 50s. Again, cooler, but still dry into the weekend outlook. Our 7-day forecast, continue dry conditions, but then as we start to edge towards the following weekend, I'm still going to call for a dry outlook, but we'll be monitoring a slight chance for some rain and snow.
Next on To The Point, I sit down one-on-one with new Sacramento Mayor Kevin McCarty. Just as we learned, former city manager Howard Chan is still on the payroll. Plus, controversy in the confirmation hearings underway for President-elect Trump's cabinet nominees. Welcome back. The city of Sacramento has named their new interim city manager. Lainey Milstein will fill the role previously held by Howard Chan. She will receive a salary of $352,000 per year. Her appointment comes after the city council decided not to extend the contract of former city manager Howard Chan. The decision was made in part by Chan's salary of more than $400,000 per year. We are learning tonight that Chan now has a new role in the city as assistant city manager, which we are told was part of his contract to have 1-year return rights to go back to his old position as assistant city manager. The city of Sacramento says he will earn $340,000 per year in this position, which is the highest possible salary. Mayor Kevin McCarty joined me in studio just a few hours ago for a wide-ranging conversation on this topic, and we spoke about hiring a new city manager and affordable housing, among other topics. What are you looking for in the next city manager?
We want somebody who's going to be collaborative, of course, with the city council. Someone who's going to be a skilled public administrator, someone that's innovative, that can look for solutions. But, you know, we're not counting anybody in nor out. We're doing a robust search throughout the nation and hope to find outstanding candidates, and stay tuned.
Does the council have their eye on anybody?
No, no, not yet.
You're still looking.
Yeah.
Will there be public input?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. We're in the early stages of finding, the firm that's going to oversee that.
The salary range for this position has been a big topic of conversation.
Yeah.
In your personal opinion, what do you think is a fair range for this role, fair salary range?
Well, most of these positions are funded on, what's the norm for the industry. But I think people did scratch their head and say, Sacramento is paying our person the highest in the state of California.
Around
that didn't quite make sense. So, I think that we should be in the mid-range, for cities above our size. Do we want to be the outlier and be paying the most? Probably not. So I think we're very mindful about that going forward.
Can you give me specifics on what your administration is planning to do to address the ongoing homelessness crisis here in Sacramento?
Well, clearly it's the #1 issue in the city of Sacramento. #1 issue in cities across California. You know, this week we opened down in South Sacramento on Stockton Boulevard a safe stay spot for 175 people to go in a tiny home. I'm working with our city auditor. One of my big campaign promises was to audit our city spending to make sure we're getting our biggest bang for our buck. So I'm looking at the different programs that we fund with the money we get from the state for homelessness.
Affordable housing, another issue that Sacramento has been working to address. What are you seeing as some of the biggest barriers in getting affordable housing in Sacramento?
Well, there's a few things I think that we can do. One, I think we need to make it easier for people to build housing in Sacramento. How can we reduce barriers to cut red tape to make it easier for someone to build a duplex, build an ADU in their backyard, build an affordable housing complex for, 100 residents or 300. And so, cutting red tape and reducing barriers is key. We're looking at sites throughout the city of Sacramento. Can we, identify more locations where we can have, multifamily housing throughout the city of Sacramento? We also need to look as far as what we can do to draw in more money from the state. And then I'm looking at, opportunity sites like downtown. We have state workers who aren't necessarily going back to some of the buildings like they were years ago. So can we repurpose some of this land in the central city for housing? Some people have said, hey, what about the Macy's site right there in the mall that just announced we're going to close down? So I think there are some opportunity sites throughout the city of Sacramento, especially in our downtown core. We want to do two things, build more housing at all income levels and bring more life back downtown. So that's kind of a twofer.
And you can watch my full interview with Sacramento Mayor Kevin McCarty on the ABC 10 Plus streaming app on your time, wherever you stream. We also discuss police vacancies and how would, the city respond to threats of deportations and so much more. All you have to do is just look for One-on-One with Mayor McCarty on the home screen on the ABC 10 Plus app. All right, turning now to the Trump transition. President-elect Trump's pick for Attorney General Pam Bondi facing hours of questioning today on Capitol Hill. Bondi has been a fierce supporter of Trump, including during his efforts to overturn the 2020 election, a topic that was really top of mind in today's hearing. Here's Perry Russum with more.
Today, Pam Bondi, the woman President-elect Trump wants to be his Attorney General, questioned about her fierce loyalty to the incoming president.
Are you prepared to say today under oath without reservation that Donald Trump lost the presidential contest to Joe Biden in 2020?
President Biden is the president of the United States. He was duly sworn in, and he is the president of the United States. There was a peaceful transition of power. President Trump left office and was overwhelmingly elected in 2024.
Bondi is the former Attorney General of Florida who supported Trump's efforts to overturn the 2020 election. Today, Bondi repeatedly refusing to say Trump lost that race.
Who won the 2020 presidential election?
Joe Biden is the president of the United States.
Bondi says she has had no discussions with Trump about prosecuting his perceived political enemies, including President Biden or anyone on the January 6th committee.
No one will be prosecuted, investigated because they are a political opponent. That's what we've seen for the last 4 years.
Democrats focusing on how she will handle Kash Patel, Trump's controversial pick for FBI director. Patel has defended January 6 rioters, threatened to fire FBI agents, and promised to come after some members of the media. Patel would work under Bondi in the Justice Department.
I believe that Kash is the right person at this time for this job. You'll have the ability to question Mr. Patel.
And I'm questioning you right now
do.
about whether you will enforce an enemies list that he announced publicly on television.
Oh, Senator, I'm sorry. There will never be an enemies list within the Department of Justice.
Bondi's hearings will continue tomorrow with testimony from people speaking on her behalf. Florida Senator Marco Rubio also faced questioning today. Rubio is nominated as Secretary of State, and during much of his 5-hour hearing today, Rubio warned that without policy shifts, China will remain the, quote, biggest threat to America. Rubio is expected to easily win confirmation, having support not only from Republicans, but also Democrats. Next, on to the point, new changes to what's allowed in your food. The popular dye the FDA just banned. All right, before we go, we want to mention the FDA is ordering food and drug makers to remove a dye called Red 3. This synthetic food dye is used mainly in foods such as candy, baked goods, dairy, and frozen foods, and also some dietary supplements and oral medicines like cough syrups. The colorant was banned from cosmetics and non-oral medications decades ago because a study showed it caused cancer when eaten by rats. Food manufacturers will have until January 2027 to remove the dye from their products, and the makers of ingested drugs have until January 2028 to do the same. As always, thank you so much for watching and for inviting us into your home. If you have something that we should be looking into, you already know what to do. Reach out to me and the team. And To the Point does not end here. You can always watch our stories featured on our show. Download our free ABC 10 Plus app. Hey, it's Alex. I just wanted to say thank you so much for watching. The To The Point team and I love hearing from you, and I hope that you'll stay in touch. And don't forget, you can always email me and the team at tothepoint@abc10.com, or you can even send us a text message at 916-321-3310.